got into a bit of shock. I feel like vomiting all the time. I mean, I've never ever felt like that with the baboons before, but it was extremely aggressive, both of them.
A voice note from a resident of a coastal community outside Cape Town, moments after encountering baboons in her home.
I was screaming and trying to hit them apart.
Baboons have a lot of rights. I have no rights at all.
They look at you and they walk straight past you into the kitchen.
Baboon just got into one of the apartments. It's unbelievable.
A long-standing suburban conflict between wild animals and humans.
There is a very fine line between admiring a baboon and treating them as though they were your sort of public pets.
And it's reaching breaking point.
No, they're not
Baboons are
dangerous.
dangerous, eh?
No, they're not dangerous.
Huh?
They're not dangerous.
Get out of here!
Few issues divide coastal communities more than baboons, as this standoff in Kommetjie on the Cape Peninsula early last month shows.
It's your fault, police! Your fault!
About 40 baboons had spent most of the winter sleeping in town, raiding the village in the day, and some residents had had enough. As their natural habitats shrink, baboons are becoming increasingly habituated in urban spaces across the peninsula, like Kommetjie and Simonstown.
By this stage, a baboon was passing me, and he came through here. Lila was on the chair over there, and she spotted it.
Kommetjie resident Margaret Kennedy has vivid memories of a serious encounter with baboons. She was inside a house at the time and had left the front door open. A local WhatsApp alert group indicated there were no baboons in the vicinity.
There was just blood everywhere. And I ran next door to go and get Wayne.
The baboon got me in my hand, but then it would go back to Leela and continue like shredding her.
Baboons had got into her home and were attacking her dog. The pit bull lost an eye and had an ear ripped off, and was later euthanized.
I was told on that day that it was an isolated incident. Nothing like that had ever happened before. And I was also blamed for leaving my front door open.
But it wasn't isolated. Incidents like this have been escalating. In some areas like central Simonstown, baboons have taken up permanent residence. Only 25% of the baboons actually go back to the mountain at night, which means there are generations and generations of baboon babies that only know city living. They occupy abandoned buildings, they forage, they eat the stuff in the rubbish. They've become part of Simonstown. Peter Willis has been living in Simonstown for 31 years. Have baboons always been a problem here?
No. In the mid-2000s, they started coming down, and it got pretty bad.
In 2010, the city of Cape Town intervened, developing a baboon management and monitoring protocol. And for 10 years, the baboons stayed largely in the mountains.
Then we hit COVID, and the troops started realizing they could move in places that they hadn't previously.
Residents were working from home. Some were feeding the baboons. They saw firsthand how the monitors controversially drove the animals out with paintball guns, relocated them, and occasionally euthanized them. It led to accusations of cruelty and ineptitude against city officials, some of whom had their tires slashed or were threatened. Respected behavior ecologist Professor Justin O'Ryan wasn't spared. He and his family were threatened, and his job put at risk.
That was probably the most difficult lesson I learned, was that facts can't beat Facebook.
Amid the public mudslinging, the baboon management program lost funding and slowly became ineffectual.
I think they should have had the backbone to stand up and say, well, that's your opinion. They were carrying on like this because it's the right thing to do. It's rational, it's supported by science, and communities and baboons are benefiting.
In the vacuum, the baboons moved in. There are 2 baboons in this rubbish bin right now. This is why the baboons are in such bad shape. They're eating food out of the rubbish bins, and when they can't find anything here, they go into people's homes.
This was locked. Unfortunately, those 2 bottom ones weren't. And they took, she took out the whole of this window.
Polly Saul lives alone and no longer sits outside in her garden.
I was shocked because everything was closed and locked. And an avo rolled across the counter, so it assumed I was going to take its purchase. And it just leaned over to make sure I didn't. And I think in the process, it caught my hand.
Baboons carry many diseases and leave behind huge amounts of feces. Polly needed a tetanus shot.
Their skills are improving massively, and we are helpless.
Okay, so this window's been broken open.
Baboons are actively breaking in, chewing through wooden window frames and breaking burglar bars, and trapping dogs inside homes.
All these objects are broken.
As I walked in here, I just knew.
In August, filmmaker Michael Donnelly returned to a house turned upside down by 16 baboons.
I mean, really, like a bomb's hit it.
It was trashed.
Trashed. There's poos all over the steps, there's poos all over the walls here, there's poos all over that wall, and everywhere here. And I come up here, and the baboon's running.
But all this gear, eh?
Yeah.
Did any of it get damaged?
A lot. There's a camera with they pooed in it. They threw it out the window. There's another one, there's a 35mm lens. I've got an 85mm 1.2 that I have no idea where it is. It's just gone. I reckon that we're probably looking at somewhere 250,000, maybe 300,000. I mean, seriously. The baboons have a lot of rights. I feel that I have no rights in this thing, that nobody's listening to what is happening here. Everyone is pretending it's a sort of a non-event.
Since June 2022, SANParks, Cape Nature and the city, collectively called the JTT, have been formulating an urban baboon strategic management plan.
Broke a lot of stuff.
But the process has been marred by political infighting and budget disagreements. Now, the city has terminated what's left of the existing baboon monitoring program. Residents feel the authorities are missing in action, and their desperate pleas for help are simply disappearing into the void. Animal activists like 𝗶𝗶𝗴𝗶𝗴𝗆 are trying to fill the gap.
So it's when the baboons move across the road, and then I have a flag just to warn traffic, because the baboon's fur is the same colour as the tarmac, and to also keep them safe, so that nobody interferes with them before they go to roost.
Is that a self-appointed function?
When you say self-appointed, if I'm there doing traffic control, I just make sure that they, they stay away from danger, really.
Like many in these areas, Pauline believes people who choose to live here should adapt to the baboons.
You need to embrace what comes with Kommetjie, all the wildlife, the otters, the baboons, everything that's here.
I think suggesting to people that they should learn to live with baboons in a suburb is a very bad idea. And our data is clear on this, that if baboons spend time in urban areas, they will suffer from all manner of injury and death linked to that urban space.
These baboons are even coming into the schools. And some parents are worried that it's only a matter of time before a child gets injured. Belinda Goff's family has lived peacefully with the baboons for the last 60 years. Now, she fears for their safety. While filming, dogs start barking and 4-year-old Finn reacts with terror.
He's had some awful experiences where baboon has come right past him into the kitchen and taken food and out, and he has nightmares. He wouldn't sleep in his own bed for ages after that.
Residents use community alerts to try and stay ahead of the baboons.
Normally, we look at your WhatsApp group and say, okay, let's quickly close up, get the dogs in, get the kids in, and wait until they've gone past. But it's become so difficult.
We spoke to many young parents off camera who told us their children are scared to move around their own homes. But they're worried that speaking out would see them labeled as baboon haters.
There was some activist standing outside my house. She was screaming from the road, and while we were traumatized, stuck in our house, and terrified that the baboon would injure one of my children.
You don't know who to talk to. You don't know who's filming you.
Sisters Janice and Margaret grew up with the baboons, but they're alarmed by how emboldened they've become and shocked at the backlash against complaints.
You live in this fear of being labelled and pointed at, saying you're the one that wants the baboons dead. And it's not true.
Willis says division in the community has deepened since 2022.
People, these sort of keyboard warriors, were splitting into those who were fiercely animal rights activist-oriented and those who were saying, yes, but I don't want the baboons in my kitchen.
These baboons are a danger to animals and children, don't you think?
No, definitely not.
But they've mauled animals.
They don't maul. Baboons do not attack dogs.
Let me say, they have viciously injured animals.
No, no. Baboons do not
but they
attack.
have.
They defend. I've been in situations where a dachshund has walked right through a troop of 40. The baboons never touch that dog.
For every single thing that you say, you're saying it's the conduct of the other person. It's not the baboons, it's the dog. It's not the baboons, it's the kid. It's not the baboons coming into the house to raid, it's the people who left the doors open. Surely you don't believe that.
Look, if you bring your children up to really love wildlife, there's lots of children, even in my road, who are not bothered by the baboons. Their parents actually walk them outside to meet the baboons. They love them.
Willis, who's a professional mediator, has tried to intervene and build trust. He's formed a civic coalition with other concerned citizens.
We are here to see if we can't develop a really sensible engagement between residents and authorities to get to good outcomes. And for quite a while, they were very welcoming of our voice.
Baboons they're remarkable, and when they learn it, they don't unlearn.
But the progress was short-lived, and the standoff continues. The only thing everyone seems to agree on is that the baboons are better off in the mountains. But they differ on how to get them there. We too got a taste of the distrust engulfing places like Simonstown. While working along the main road as baboons made their way through the town, a group of monitors calming the traffic took exception to us filming.
Hey man, take your camera out of my face. Hey, hey, hey. Hey, are you one of these sensationalist people?
Perhaps understandably, tempers here frayed and many rushed to judgment. Something evident in the widely publicized Kommetjie incident last month.
The Rangers went before you came.
Oh, just off. How can you hurt an animal, you pig? Oh, you pig.
He actually can't see.
He can't see.
Some onlookers believed this baboon had been pepper sprayed as it appeared disorientated. But other residents insist the baboon had eaten marijuana taken from a house earlier that day.
He's gonna fall.
In November, the JTT and animal rights groups will face off in court. Accused of failing the animals, one of the biggest complaints leveled against officials is poor waste management. It's argued that conflict between baboons and local communities has shown to be reduced when food waste is managed with baboon-proof bins and collaborative recycling. But there are no easy answers.
So once baboons have learnt all the tricks that they are learning in urban areas, including breaking windows, removing sliding doors, you don't unlearn that.
The JTT declined the interview on the advice of their legal representatives until after the court case is finalized. This town has been divided by the baboons, wild baboons, that are being domesticated. And in this tension-filled atmosphere, perhaps all residents, activists, and certainly the baboons are victims. In the absence of resources and guidance from the powers that be, residents are left to find solutions to a population of habituated baboons.
En as jy my gevang het, wat gaan jy doen?